Good evening, Talking Hawks fans, and welcome to our first live stream of 2025. With under 50 days until our first home and away game, the boys are back and by all sounds, training the house down. Get your comments and questions in. We'll be sure to get to them as best we can. Tonight, I'm joined by Tim and Ollie to chat all things Hawthorn and more specifically the recent match simulations, which have been sounding very interesting. Tim, I know you've been down at Waverley quite a bit recently, chatting to a few players. I know your interview with Blake Hardwick dropped today, which is a great listen, so everyone get onto that after this. What's the atmosphere been like, Tim? Are they looking fit and firing?
Yeah, absolutely. They're looking tremendous. I mean, we know that Dylan Moore said before the holidays that they wanted to go out and make sure that they came back incredibly fit, because you might not be able to win a premiership over Christmas, but you can certainly lose it. And the players have come back. They are in incredible form, all fit and firing. Blake Hardwick was talking today about the ringing of the bell and how lots of the players are hitting personal bests, which is certainly able to do. And they just look like they're in tremendous spirits at the moment. And that's what you want to see, especially in the lead up to round zero, where we get to take on last year's grand finalists in the Sydney Swans. So I think they're all very, very excited by it. And I think as of today, it's 50 days. So the countdown.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, maybe you just want to reconnect to your internet or something. It's just cutting out a little bit, but we'll throw to you, Ollie, now. I know maybe you haven't been there, neither have I, but how's your feelings around this pre-season? Are you getting excited? As Tim said, it's coming close, and we have some practice matches, just around the corner as well, which are always good. Yeah, Ollie, what are your thoughts been so far?
Oh, I couldn't be more excited. Like you said, I haven't been able to get to any of the recent sessions, unlike Tim, and so I'm kind of using his notes and all his reports as my main source of info about how the boys are going, alongside all of the Hawks media, which is showing the boys, one, looking physically in really great shape, but also looking really happy and obviously excited as well, and ready to really throw themselves into season 2025. But there's just something in the air this year, I feel, and I couldn't be more excited as a Hawks fan.
Yeah, a few comments are mentioning the documentary, which we know is being filmed around the club. I mean, I forgot about it, but that would be a bit of added pressure, and we got to look good in that. So hopefully, we start off well. Maybe we'll start with a comment like this. Let's go very, very early predictions for ladder. You don't have to be, I'm not super, super optimistic in the sense that I'm going to put us number one at this time, but I think, we're looking pretty good. There's a lot of hype around us, but we do have a very tricky start to the season. You look at those first 5 or 6 games, a lot of Thursday, Fridays, a lot of, top 8 teams from last year. So could we get off to another iffy start again? I don't know, but maybe Tim, will go to you. What's your very early predictions? We won't hold you to them, but just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, look, I definitely think that we will be able to make top 4. I know a lot of people have said that the first 6 weeks are incredibly difficult, but I think there's a flaw when we look at it, because we look at what teams were able to produce last year, and that's not necessarily how they're going to perform this year. So I think when we look at the draw, and it's all well and good to say, oh my goodness, we've got such a tough draw and we're playing this team who were sensational last year, or, we're playing this team who are full of champions. That was last year. And just like, we were tremendous at the back end of last year, hopefully we'll see that again this year. But I think personally, I can see us, I think the Herald Sun had us at 5-1 after the first 6 games. I can see us at 4-2. And I think at 4-2, I can definitely see us in the positive ledger. And if that's the case, then definitely top 4 is there for the taking, because from the looks of it, no one's regressed from what we saw last season. We haven't come up against any opposition yet. We've only been playing against ourselves in these little scratch matches and match simulations. But I think there's definitely a lot of positives, and it's a wonderful time to be a Hawthorn supporter.
Yeah, Ollie, you want to give us your quick, estimation on where we'll finish at the end of the year?
I think in an overly confident point of view, I think, like, kind of reflecting the Herald Sun's prediction, I think 5-1 would be something that is not out of the realms of possibility and really something to aim for. I would take into account just based on the difficulty of the draw. Definitely one kind of loss, maybe a down week, which is bound to happen. But looking more realistically, and as Tim touched on, I think just it is really important for us to be after that first 6 rounds in the positives in terms of win-loss. We know how we started last year, and although it didn't stop us from making finals, and we were looking, I mean, when you look at the run home and even just the whole second half of last season, we were probably the first or second best team in the competition. But I think the importance of just not getting ourselves off to such a kind of delayed start and really shooting ourselves in the foot in that respect is really important. So I would say 4-2 would be my more realistic prediction, but 5-1 is definitely not something I'd rule out.
Yeah, for me, I think, I don't know if top 4 is my prediction just yet. I'm always on the conservative side, but I think maybe 5 or 6 would be I'd be pretty happy, making sure we are in the finals. That's definitely the pass mark for this year. In terms of the early rounds, I saw that article 5-1 and thought, wow, that's pretty optimistic. I mean, I'm more in the camp of at minimum 3-3, and I would be happy with, very happy with 4-2. So I think, Cody's touched on it just a little bit here in terms of our first 5 or 6 weeks the past few years have been pretty ordinary. Last year, being the highlight of that. Is that a feature of, a Hawthorn team that was struggling as we were in the previous years, and now that'll, won't matter anymore now that we're performing a lot better? I don't know. It's definitely a conversation to be had, but I think David's hit it on the head here. Got one finals win last year, this year too. And if we win the cup, it's a bonus. Well, that's a pretty big bonus, David, for sure. So maybe let's start going into some of the what we've seen at training. I think we can go to you, Tim, first. Who was some of the standouts in the match sim? You don't have to give us every name, but who were the ones that really caught your eye?
Yeah, so over the past 2 days, we've had sort of 2 different lots of match simulations. So on Monday, they had the first sort of official match simulations, and today they had match simulations where we had a few of the Box Hill boys down. We had 2 AFL umpires as well. So today was more of a real feel. And I think based on what we saw today, 2 players that absolutely put their hand up, to be definitely in contention for selection was Cam Mackenzie, who we know at the back end of last year was performing really, really well. And the other one was Henry Huswaite, who, and I feel like it's deja vu because I think it was this time last year where both of those boys were absolutely banging down the door, to try and get that last position in the team. And watching both of them today, Henry Huswaite was on the goal team, and the goal team had Lloyd Meek as their ruckman. Cam Mackenzie was on the Brown team. The Brown team had Ned Reeves as their ruckman. Both of them ended up with 3 centre clearances, and they both looked absolutely tremendous. Huswaite's hands in close were phenomenal. Cam Mackenzie's ability just to slow everything down when he had the ball in hand and find, the perfect option. There was one play where, he got the ball about 70 metres out. He wheeled around onto his right foot and hit this beautiful pass lace out to Blake Hardwick, who led out of the goal square, took the mark, went back and slotted it from 40. And then if any of you have seen the news tonight, they showed the image of Cade Simpson kicking a goal during the match simulation, and he kicked that goal from Cam Mackenzie's kick into the forward 50. So,
nice,
in terms of that, Mackenzie was absolutely on fire. So those 2 were really tremendous. And then it was a really interesting battle between the 2 rucks because I think Ned Reeves feels like he's got something to prove. At the moment, he was Hawthorn's number 1 ruckman in 2023. Last year, Lloyd Meek got the chocolates and was the one who sort of got the selection. And both of them had an absolutely stirring battle today. Ned Reeves' ability to win the hitouts obviously is a strength of his, and Lloyd Meek's running ability, but the 2 of them had this absolutely tremendous battle. And it was really wonderful to see, because that's what you want. You want to see competition for spots. You don't want to see players resting on their laurels. And I think it's going to be a fascinating a fascinating match committee when they sit down to pick their side for the community series game against Geelong, because at the moment, both of them have great strengths, and it's about which one is going to be the best for our team going forward.
Yeah, as you said, like there's a few blokes there that really stood up last preseason, especially like Huswaite, who couldn't get a crack in the side in the end, because, that midfield is, when it's fully fit, is so stacked. And there is a few in line waiting who, like Mackenzie, who, are just in front of him. But it's good to see that, we've given him a reason. Like, he's still got a couple of years left on his contract, I think, which is good that we're going to keep persisting with him, because I really like what I see from him at Box Hill. So, yeah, I hopefully we see some more of him, but at AFL level this year, by pushing his way through and by starring in the VFL. Ollie, how do you think that midfield mix is going to function next year? You think it's just set and forget, or who do you see coming in? We've got Mackenzie, Ward, Huswaite. Who do you think might be, banging down the doors to get into that mix?
I think it's obviously a pretty hard mix to get inside. Just if we go back to even the finals and against the Dogs, even without Will Day, you saw how potent that midfield was, with Jai Newcomb dominating. Connor Nash is really, after a couple of years of on the fringes and playing forward, playing back, has really made that inside big-bodied mid-roll his own. Obviously, you've got the return of Will Day, which is just adds a whole nother dimension to our midfield. But to me, as Tim touched on before, it's Cam Mackenzie for me. I think my mind just goes back to his debut round one against Essendon in 2023, first quarter, and he's just come straight out the middle. And the highlight of the play was Chad Wingard's goal of the year nomination, when he ducked and weaved between seemingly the whole Essendon defence. But Cam Mackenzie's composure, and he was 18 at this time, but his composure, ball use, and he may not be the biggest kick of the ball, but his precision, it reminds me of Sam Mitchell, the coach, in a way. And if he can stack on some size, which by Tim's reports and also just by photos I've seen throughout the preseason, he's obviously done, and also just get a little bit more used to the AFL speed and just the pressure that is obviously a step up from the VFL, which all of last year, whenever he played down there, he dominated. He's the one that I think can really inject a high class ball use midfielder, and also I think, as we've seen, he can hit the scoreboard, and so I think kind of a rotation. I think him and Connor McDonald will work really well, rotating more between that forward and forward and midfielder positions, and he's one that I project as one that can really stamp down a spot in the team in 2025.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's a really promising kid. And as you said, those Sam Mitchell comparisons are pretty apt. He's looking really good by all reports, and it'll be exciting to see what he does with another, big preseason behind him. So let's head to the back line now. We've got our two new bright, shiny, well, maybe not as bright and shiny as some of the younger blokes, but Barras for sure and Battle are there. And, they are breathing new life into this back line. As you referred to before, Timmy, Cade Simpson was spoken to on one of the channel newses, talking about how there's a lot of blokes to fit into those 6 spots, but hopefully Barras and Battle will have those locked down. So how have they been looking in pre-season, Tim?
Yeah, look, those two are going to add something absolutely tremendous that I guess we haven't had at Hawthorn for a long time. The ability of Tom Barras to be able to get a hand on the ball, a fist on the ball, just to be able to nullify and negate his opponent is something to behold. There was one opportunity on Monday where he was about 15 metres away from young Jasper Scaife. I think Scaife had a bit of a smile on his face and thought, I'm going to take a mark here on a player who was a premiership winner. And out of nowhere, Tom Barras just put the the Jets on, got there, and was able to spoil. And then watching him today, just his ability to, as a player was about to pick the ball up, just to be able to get a hand in and tap it away and just continue to make it really difficult for forwards. He was lined up on Mabior Chol today for large portions of it, and he kept Mabior quite quiet. Mabior was working his way up the ground, and whenever that happened, you'd see Jack Scrimshaw and Tom Barrass swap players. So Scrimshaw would move further up the ground and Barrass would stay back. And I think that's going to be a real strength of his. But something that Tom Barrass did today that I had not seen before or didn't quite realise, and I guess because we don't get a lot of West Coast footage over here, but his ability to find a target. There were times where he had the ball inside his defensive 50 and he'd look into the centre of the ground and hit a beautiful pass to someone who was free. And all of a sudden the game just broke open. And I think that's going to be something that as Hawthorn supporters, we're going to really enjoy watching. Mm-hmm. Then in terms of Josh Battle played as a centre-half back. So I know there's been a lot of talk and conjecture about who goes forward. We haven't been able to see that from the match simulations to date so far. So what we've seen so far is Josh Battle playing back, Josh Weddle playing back. We've seen Tom Barrass back, Jack Scrimshaw back. And in terms of Josh Battle, not only is he great in terms of his combativeness, he hates losing. He hates allowing the opposition forwards to get away from him on the lead. But his kicking off both feet is Sam Mitchell-esque, because we know Sam Mitchell was an absolute freak kicking off both feet. And Battle had a wonderful kick today where he hit Finn McGuinness. So he had the ball on the wing and he ran, kicked a 50-metre pass that landed straight on Finn's chest. Finn got it inside forward 50 and, the team kicked a goal. And I just think, once again, another great quality to have, because not only do we have Jack Scrimshaw, who's a great kick, and James Sicily, who's a great kick, and Jarman Impey, who's a good kick, and Carl Amon, who's a great kick. Now you chuck in Josh Battle, who's a wonderful kick. And all of a sudden, that back line, Kate Simpson was saying, how do you fit 10 players into 6? That's going to be a very fascinating question to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a few comments about Battle maybe being a forward, but in my opinion and what I saw from him at Saints last year, he was much better in defence than he was forward, and he was recruited as a centre-half back, well, to play mostly down back and in that sort of position. So I don't know how much we'll see of him forward, maybe just a slight bit, but that's my opinion of what I'm seeing from and hearing from Battle's preseason. But I think that forward line is very interesting. One bloke you didn't mention, Tim, is Hardwick. I mean, that news report did say he was training forward. Is that still what's happening? I know he trained forward all of last year, moved there a little bit, maybe not as much as some expected, but he did have stints in the forward line. Are we going to see a bit more of him forward this year, or is this just another, preseason just in case we need to throw him forward?
No, I think the aim is for him to go forward. So from chatting to him today, he was speaking about his confidence and how much more confidence he has in being able to play that role, because he was asked to do that last year. And I think when you look at Blake Hardwick, yes, we know he's great at curtailing those small forwards. A lot of Hawthorn supporters believe he has Cody Waitman on a leash. I don't know if you've seen the meme that's gone around in terms of that. We know that when he comes up against Charlie Cameron, it's always a stellar contest. But I think Blake Hardwick, once again, just offers a unique matchup up forward. Gather round, when we were sort of out of it at halftime, Blake Hardwick goes forward, kicks 4 goals. And then against Port Adelaide, kicks 5 before going back and trying to help. I think him in that forward line, especially with Cal Shadir, who looks like he won't be available for round 1 at the moment, or round 0, because he's going to get scans later on at the end of January. But you would imagine with a back stress injury that they're going to take their time with him. There's no point in rushing him. The kid's, 19. He's got his whole career ahead of him. You don't want to rush him. But I think Blake Hardwick can play tall. He's got that defensive nous. He loves a contest. And, a bit of mongrel in that forward line certainly doesn't go astray.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've got another question here about Frost and Sarong. I know Frost has been kind of in the recovery group. He just had a baby not too long ago. Obviously, got injured before that Port game and has been working on, getting that all good and well again. So is that right, Tim? Frost has been still recovering, and Sarong, actually, I haven't heard too much too much about, so you can give us a rundown on him as well.
Yeah, in terms of Frosty is on the recovery path from his broken foot. So he's been in that recovery group. He has been running. He's hoping to rejoin with the main drills on Saturday, so this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Whether or not that happens is obviously up to the strength and conditioning and the medicos, but that's his aim. His aim is to be available, to be out there on Saturday with the rest of the team. And I think when you see that recovery group or that rehab group quite small, you want to be part of that main group and you want to be part of the team that's pushing for that round zero call. So that's where Frosty's at. In terms of Sarong, he's been playing as centre-half back during lots of the match simulations. At times, he's pushed forward as to offer a bit of a different look in terms of that forward line. And I think he's one that we'll probably see playing at Box Hill. And if someone is unfortunate enough to get injured, then we know that we have Caleb Sarong, so you have Jai Sarong, who's at Box Hill, who will be able to come in and play his role, similar to what he was asked to do when he came in to play in that elimination final against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, let's throw to you now, Ollie. This is a good question here. Gunners, will he be in the 23 at the start of the season? As we spoke about before, Kalsha is injured. So, there will have to be someone new down there, or not necessarily new, of course, but we are, going to be without him maybe for the first couple of weeks of the season. I mean, Timmy, you wrote today about him slotting a few goals. Ollie, do you reckon he's in the side at the start of the season?
Yeah, I definitely do. We've been working on a piece for Talking Hawks behind the scenes about our predicted starting 22 come round zero, and Gunners is definitely penciled in that forward line. I think especially now that Kalsha looks quite unlikely, but even so, I would have had him in to start the year. And by all reports, compared even to last year, his preseason has been much more consistent. He's been able to do a lot more. We know he went over to the States voluntarily with a lot of the younger boys, and that kind of just shows how hungry he is and how capable he still is, and obviously quite confident in his body as well. I think in terms of the whole year, I can really see a bit of an interchangeable relationship between him and Bruce, as whether it be the sub role or starting in that forward line, kind of providing that real leadership, that mentorship, like they did last year, to great effect. And then also you've got the added bonus of both players having the ability to pop up and kick 3 or 4 goals in one game and really blow a game apart and get us over the line. And I don't think that's something that's going to vanish in 2025, just given how smart of a footballer he is. He's still got the leading patterns. He's still got the kicking. And I don't think Gunston's effects in our starting 23 is going to go anywhere. It's not going to vanish. Yeah, I've got a big soft spot for Gunners. I think, reading Tim's reports, he's looked great pre-season. When I went down back in December, he looked just so fit. I think we're going to see him early. I mean, he's never going to play all 23, 24, however it is now, games for the year. But yeah, I think he adds a great piece down there, especially with his leadership as well. And yeah, Cody points out this could look like our forward line with Chol, Gunston, Hardwick, Watson, Giddevan, McDonald, and more. I mean, that sounds great to me. We had a question before about Watson. He's been in the recovery group, hasn't he, Tim?
Yeah, so Watto's been in the rehab group. So he's been there since they came back from the Christmas break, both he and Jack Ginnivan. So both of them at the moment just got a few little niggles that they're just ironing out. So neither of them have been part of the main group. They have been running copious amounts of laps. So that gives me confidence that whatever the little niggle isn't too bad, purely for the fact that if it was bad, they wouldn't be doing the copious amounts of running that they're currently doing. So fingers crossed that we'll see both of them available, as of next week. Jack Ginnivan said on Monday that he was hopeful that he'd be back in the main group sooner rather than later. So hopefully that is the case when it comes to next Monday. But yeah, in terms of the Wiz, unfortunately, he hasn't been out there with that main group since they came back after the Christmas break.
Yeah, those things happen. I mean, as you said, he's only a young kid. Pre-seasons are a lot of work, and little niggles and things like that come out of them. So it makes sense that they're just maybe slowing him down for a little bit. But when I saw him in December last year, when they were doing a bit of the match sim or smaller down versions and that, he looked just as good. And I just saw a post on Instagram of people asking, who do you think their top 5 predicted players in 2025 will be in the entire league? And I saw a few Watto mentions. So I think there's a lot of hype around this kid, and I'm sure he will, we haven't seen anything but him, reaching those heights of what he's been predicted, especially at the start of the year. Chol and Lewis, this is what David said. From what I know, I mean, Lewis did his ACL mid-season last year. Even in a best-case scenario, I still think it would be a mid-season type of go this year. Maybe, I think would be after the bye. But, you never know with these things, especially with long-term recoveries. But we know he's going supremely well in terms of this recovery. But with ACLs, it's a long, long recovery, unfortunately. And even if you're going, reaching all your milestones, it still is often those 12 months, unless you're a super freak like Doherty, who got back super early last year. But yeah, Tim, confirm that for me. He's still probably a ways away. He won't be there for round 0.
No, so he's hoping to rejoin the main group for drills as of early February. So what's that? About a fortnight away, which is fantastic. So that puts him ahead of schedule. And then at this stage, it would be sort of mid to late April when he would be available. And they'd put him through Box Hill to get some conditioning and some game time into him, with the ideal look as getting him in after we finish the bye. So if you think about that, I think our bye is round 14, round 15, somewhere around there, that second bye that we have. And that would be when we'd look at possibly getting Mitch Lewis to come back in. But from watching him in terms of what he's been able to do, I think it's absolutely fantastic to see his recovery, because he did have a little setback after he had the operation. And since then, he's been able to hit every single milestone. As I said, he's slightly ahead of where he should be. And it's wonderful to see, because he's an absolutely wonderful human being as well. And you just want the best for good people.
Yeah, exactly. I think, sometimes having that full clean out, that full reco of that knee, can do wonders for a person. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that, he'll be back to what we saw prior to any of these injury concerns. And I think, they don't, as you said, with a lot of other players, you don't have to rush him back. It'd be nice to have him early, but we shouldn't need him. We did well enough without him last year, and he'll just be that extra bonus when we're really heading for that, hopefully, for that top 4 after that bye. A lot of questions on Matt Hill, which is really interesting. Maybe potential new cult figure here at the Hawks, but a lot of good questions about him. I know, he's a project piece. He's not going to be there round 1, but Tim, what are your thoughts? How's you seen him at training?
Yeah, look, he's got speed to burn. And I think, when he gets the ball in open space, he's going to be wonderful to watch. He's got some beautiful, dazzling feet that he's able to use as well, which is great. One thing that we've seen, I guess, from Hilly over the course of time since he started at Hawthorn is his endurance. There's a huge difference between the endurance needed for rugby league and the endurance needed to play Aussie rules. And that's something that he's continuing to build, is that tank, because for him to be able to play, especially at the top level, he needs to be able to build his tank, to build his endurance. So he's been working on that. And it was really fascinating. So after the match simulation today, they were doing some goal kicking and a few little bits and pieces. And John Newcomb and Connor Nash spent some time with Hill talking about, where to go and what to do and how to get involved. And that's some of the things that I think are really important, especially for a player who hasn't played Aussie rules, for a significant period of time, having gone to the Brisbane Broncos and then to the Melbourne Storm as well. I think it's great to see those leaders, or those younger leaders like your Nashes and your John Newcombs, who are there and helping to assist in terms of that transition. Because if Matt Hill is able to understand the game plan, if he's able to understand sort of his role and how to go about it, and he builds that tank, then I think he'll be absolutely fascinating to watch. But as you said, he's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, exactly. A few other works in progress that we're getting mentions as well is Noah Mraz, our new draftee, and Will McCabe, who had a stagnated start to last year, but came in to Box Hill and looked very good. They're little, in my opinion, they're not going to be playing senior footy, maybe not this year, or they, may, depending on injuries. But I think they're just going to be little works in progress that we're going to have, cooking at Box Hill, and they'll come out just when we need them in a couple of years' time and be absolutely ready and ripe to go, especially when, Barras will be older, Sicily will be older in a couple of years. They may not even be there. So I think these guys will be perfect replacements. Ollie, what have you seen of these two guys so far over their careers, and Noah in terms of in his preseason?
I think based off what you just said about how maybe there's not a straight position for them in the senior team to begin 2025, and hoping we don't get any major injuries. That might be the case throughout most of this year, but I think their talent is evident. Both players were high picks in the draft, and Mraz was one that his navicular injury to his ankle kind of threw a spanner in the works in terms of his draft year, but was one that with his coordination, his athleticism, his size, and his versatility as well, was kind of looked at as a bit of a wild card in this year's pool, and one that recruiters didn't really have any idea where he would fall, and thought he could go much higher than where we did end up nabbing him in the 30s. So I think that's just kind of a nod to the talent that he has, and talent that I'm sure we will see. When that is, I'm not sure. But him and McCabe, it really excites me that we kind of have these two potential pillars, that there's no rush because we are so well situated in the back line at the moment. Like Tim said before, kind of have to try and fit 10 different players into 6 positions. But we have these two players that we can put all the time in the world with. We can build up their bodies, build up their game smarts. And in a couple of years, when Barras and Sicily and Battle and Impey are getting towards the end of their careers, we have these two ready-made defenders that can come in and just slot straight into the team.
Yeah, I think they'll get a great pedigree and time in Box Hill and learn plenty of things down there. So when they come in, they'll be able to slot into those big shoes to fill in terms of if and when Barras retires. Same with Sicily, like when they, those are massive shoes to fill, I'm sure. So I think with that experience under them at Box Hill and the tutelage of those guys themselves teaching them, I think they'll be great assets. And I think they'll go really under the radar, not necessarily in terms of Hawthorn fans, but in the grand scheme of the AFL. And when they come out, they'll surprise everyone. A few others that we are talking about, Cody Anderson. He's another one. I've seen him in a lot of the videos on Instagram from Hawthorn. He's participating, getting around it all. So, potential new cult figure. We're going to have plenty at the club by the end of this, season. So, what have you seen, Tim?
The beast from the east. He has definitely got cult figure written all over him. On Monday, he's been playing predominantly as a forward, which I think is quite interesting because in terms of where he was as an under 18, he was playing as a midfielder. We've been playing him as a half forward, and his tackling pressure and his want for contact is something that you do not see from an 18-year-old. It's absolutely scary. So we know how quick CJ is. And on Monday, CJ had the ball and he took off, and Cody chased him down. And just as CJ got rid of the pill, he tackled CJ and got up and sort of shook his head like, I should have got him. But he's one that I think would be a smoky, possibly for a role as a sub later on throughout the year, because I just think he could be the type of player that you could bring on for a quarter and just that manic defensive pressure that he has and that want to tackle. And I think he's going to be one that, as Hawthorn supporters, we absolutely will love watching. And I've just noticed that Hans has commented about the training Guernseys, how they look better compared to last year. Little tidbit that Cody can't actually fit into his training jersey. So the jerseys that they actually have, the new training Guernseys, while they're the right size in terms of label, they're not actually the right size for the players. So a lot of the players currently at the moment are wearing a different number on their back in terms of the Guernseys because of how tight they are. Blake Hardwick spoke on Monday when he was coming off the track that we commented the Guernseys looks wonderful, and he said, yeah, they'd be better if you could breathe in them. So they are super, super tight. So in terms of Cody at the moment, he's been wearing number 53, even though he's not 53 in terms of his position at the club.
Yeah. What an interesting tidbit. Yeah, hopefully they get that sorted soon, because it's good to get out there when you're at training and making sure you can see all the numbers when it's a bit hard to see from at the top of the steps at Waverley. But you mentioned CJ at the start there. I'm surprised we haven't got to him yet, because by all sounds he's a massive standout in preseason. You know, he has had great preseasons in the last few years, and then, you know, got to the end and got an injury in an intra-club or a preseason game. And, you know, you hate to see that. And that's really, you know, stunted a bit of his growth in terms of at AFL level. But, you know, I was, you know, a little bit skeptical talking about the hype to Tim, and, you know, he reassured me it's not just that he's quick and moving fast, it's that his actual ball nous has improved significantly. Tim, you go on from that. You tell me what you've seen.
Yeah, look, CJ, just his ability. So last year, we know how frustrating it was for him. He looked like he was running on top of the ground. He looked like he was ready to take, you know, the games by the scruff of the neck. Unfortunately, did his hamstring just before halftime in the intra-club match, missed a fair few games, was nursed back into the senior side. I think he ended up playing 11 games for the season. But when he came back, he wasn't able to have the impact, I guess, that he would have wanted. There was opportunities where he wasn't able to take marks cleanly, or he'd be a bit fumbly when the ball was on the ground. And unfortunately for CJ, he missed out on playing in the final series for Hawthorn. And I think that's something that's really sort of resonated with him over the break, because he's come back. He looks confident in terms of his ability. He looks confident in terms of his body. And I think for a player who's had so many soft tissue injuries so early on in their career, it's really, really difficult. But he, at the moment, he's doing everything that could possibly be asked. He's offering great run and carry, great bounce from half back. He's moving around incredibly freely. There was one opportunity on Monday where he was actually lined up on Marbial Troll, and he was able to win the contest, got up, a couple of profanities with a yeah at the end of it, and was just cock a hoop and just really, really excited. And he just brings so much energy to the team. And I know he's a player that's quite divisive in terms of Hawthorn supporters. You either love him or you don't. It's very interesting having a look at, I guess, some of the debates you see on social media about him. But I think he's definitely a player that is going to be, you know, his magnet's certainly going to be in the 25 or 26 players that are considered for that round 0 game against the Swans. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him in the starting lineup when we take on Geelong on February the 17th.
Yeah, Ollie, maybe you can give us another little glimpse into your article that you're writing about our starting team for the first game of the year. Do you have CJ in there? If you do, where is he positioned? Is he off halfback?
Yep, I have CJ on a halfback flank, and that was it was something that I was definitely considering. But after Tim's reports from training and communication with him, I was sure to slot CJ in, just based off, like he said, his kind of that return of his cleanliness, whether that be by hand or by foot. We know he's fit as they come. He can run all day, and he's got that leap that kind of sets him apart from most other players in the AFL. Really, I would say he's in the top 5% in terms of athletic profile, and I think he's one that him and Mitch Lewis, I find, are two players that I look back at the 2023 and 2022 seasons, and they were both two of our most dominant players, and if they can get back to anywhere near that form in this year, obviously Mitch Lewis will be coming back a little bit later, but I think they could provide a real point of difference and really potentially kind of act as the thing that pushes us over the edge from losing in the semi-final to getting past that hump and maybe even further.
Yeah, exactly. CJ's a really exciting player, and if he can get to reach his full potential, that'll be a huge asset for the side. And by the sounds of it, he's slowly getting there, which is good. As we look to finish this live stream, get your last minute questions in. This is a question actually I had as well. Who played on the wings? I know you said Harry Morrison looked pretty good. Was he there?
Yeah, Harry Morrison was on a wing, and he's just ever so reliable. I think that's something that some Hawthorn supporters call him vanilla. I think that he's quite plain, but I think he's wonderful because he's just so reliable. You know what he's going to do, and he was on the wing, hitting targets, going inside forward 50. He was offering outlets for teammates when they had the ball in the defensive 50. He was getting back into the defensive 50 and helping make tackles and just being another option to get the ball out. So he's definitely one that certainly showed his true colours today and was truly wonderful. On the other wing, we had Mas D'Ambrosio, who we know was robbed of an All-Australian position, unfortunately, last year. And he's on the recovery path after he had his appendicitis. So he had his appendix removed. So he played one quarter of today's match simulation. And then the other player that got some time on the wing was Finn McGuinness. So he's another one. So they were the three. Carl Amon was used down half back. He pushed forward and kicked a beautiful goal from outside 50 into the wind. We also had Josh Weddle, who was playing down back. So Josh Weddle was playing as that third defender, similar to what he has been doing early on in his career. One thing with Weds that has been quite interesting just from watching the different bits of training is when training is about to finish, the forwards usually grab a couple of footies and take some shots at goal. And Josh Weddle usually grabs the footy and goes down, and he's slotting goals with Hardwick and Scaife and Ramsden and some of those other guys who are forward. So it could be something that we might see at times throughout the games. And I think it's just that versatility and flexibility that we're going to have because we have so many players that could pop up all over the ground. I think that's going to be something that, as a supporter, we're not going to know what's going to happen quarter to quarter, let alone week to week.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a big overarching question in the Hawthorn community now about who's going to move forward from that back line, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's too easy or, too hard to give one name and wait, much more, I think what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a lot of blokes switching and moving down there. It's not just going to be Weddle going down there or Sicily going down there or anything like that. I think, most will be predominantly back, but we will see a lot of changes or switching, as he said, in game to go down forward. And they're really priding themselves at the moment on their flexibility, which I think is definitely key. If something's not working, you can change it within a quarter, at halftime, etc., and really, really go well with those changes. And Mitch did a lot of those last year, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of them this year. So I think as I said, we're slowly wrapping up. We might get to just a couple more questions before we finish. But I think the main thing I want to talk about is the team bonding. How are they looking? Like, it sounds like it's all going well down there. We want to make sure they're sparked from that elimination final loss, because that very, very heartbreaking to all us Hawk supporters, heartbreaking to them. And as you heard, as we mentioned before, Dylan Moore talking about how training is so important at this time of year. And just wanting to make sure that we're all looking good. Ollie, do you have one little takeaway from this preseason that you're really looking forward to for the start of the year?
I think just the development and the evolution of Hawkball is it's quite a broad statement, but it's something that for me it looks like just maintaining that excitement that was so palpable throughout the second half of last year, but kind of tinkering it and adding elements to it, which I'm sure Sam Mitchell and all of the Hawks boys and coaches are already working on, whether that be injecting some new players, some new tactics, using different parts of the ground. I have absolute faith in the coach and his mind. It's obviously something that got us pretty far last year. And I think just whilst making those slight tweaks, just kind of staying true to what worked so well last year, and enjoying Hawks footy and having the players enjoy it and making it so obvious, and just being a club that people and the players really, really love being involved in, and I think it wouldn't be a big statement to say that we were definitely the most exciting team last year, and just by reading everything that's been made available in the media, I think that's carried over to this year, and there are big expectations, but I've no doubt that we're more than up for the challenge to match them.
Yeah, exactly. Big expectations is the thing, a lot of predictions having us in and around that top 4. So hopefully they take that in their stride and really, live up to those. Tim, maybe, just give us a last couple of sentences on what you're looking forward to for the rest of the preseason and the year to come.
Really looking forward to seeing the intra-club match. So today we had 13 players who didn't partake in the match simulation, which is why they had a significant number of the Box Hill boys who were there. So we had Kyder Glass, who's just come across from Werribee. We had Ethan Stanley, who was over at Freo, who's just come back to Box Hill. And I think, with those 13 players who weren't involved in today's match simulation, I think out of those 13, there's probably 5, maybe 6 who would certainly be in contention for round 0. You've got your Bruce, and you've got your Sicilies, and you've got your Frosts, you've got Ginnivan, you've got Watson. There's a handful without even really going into that list of players. I know Josh Ward's name's been mentioned, people thinking he might have a career best breakout year, which possibly could happen. He currently at the moment is battling a bit of illness, so he's currently on the recovery path. So he was there watching on today, didn't partake. He's done a bit of running over the last couple of weeks, but hasn't been able to rejoin the main group. But I just think when you look at the depth that we have, I think someone here wrote that we have more depth than the continental shelf, which is quite an interesting comment, but it's true, because you have a look, and as I said, I think, players like CJ and Harry Morrison and Finn McInnes, their name is going to be in sort of like 25, 26, 27, maybe 28 players who could play in any given week. And it's going to be really fascinating as a supporter to see who Sam Mitchell and the coaching staff pick each and every week. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to have some players who will miss out, unfortunately, and will be a bit of a tough watch for them. But once again, it's great in terms of our depth that we're able to have this, because you go back, 2 years, and we had AFL media journalists and commentators telling us that we were tanking and our list was deplorable and it was awful. And now you look at it and you go, well, we've got 25, 30 players who are up to AFL standard that could play week in and week out. That's a wonderful place for us to be.
Yeah, what a good note to leave us on tonight. So as Tim said, there is intra-clubs and practice matches coming up soon. So make sure to, like, subscribe, everything, to keep up with us, and follow us on all our socials. You won't want to miss anything here at Talking Hawks as we really build into the season, just like the guys down there at Waverley. But yeah, really exciting year to come. And I think for me personally is, as you said, that like flexibility that we have, the number of pressure on spots like that is absolutely what I'm looking forward to see this year. And I'm so keen now to get into it, with SCNs coming back and all those things. So we're starting to hear a bit more about what's happening down at trainings across, the whole entire league. So yeah, I'm getting really, really excited, and hopefully we can get a bit more info and things before the season starts. So once again, thank you guys for all joining, leaving lots of comments. Sorry if we couldn't get to every single one, but make sure to go back and have a look. Sometimes you'd ask the question and we'd already covered it earlier in the stream, so make sure to go have a look at that. One last plug for Tim's interview with Blake Hardwick that dropped on the podcast platforms today. So really good listen. Go have a listen to that because he's going to be a vital piece in our team. And as you said, maybe a little bit forward, which is interesting. It will be definitely interesting to hear about. So, yeah, thank you all for joining us. And once again, go Hawks.